With a war overseas, inflation on the rise, interest rates bouncing everywhere, and prices still holding strong in many sectors in Sonoma County, should you even buy a house right now? Well, I'm going to answer that question for you today. We're going to dig into some data, and at the end of this video, I'm going to share where the opportunities are as I see it in this market going into spring 2026. I'm Stephanie Johnson. I'm your Real Wise agent in Sonoma County, and I'm going to get into all the details with you right now. So the first thing to note is that in the first 3 months of this year, prices have held fairly steady in Sonoma County. When we look at countywide numbers, overall median price is only down about 1.8%, and we expect that to happen sometimes in the beginning of the year. The year can get a slow start, and so that's not surprising. And given all the chaos in the world and the fluctuation in interest rates and other financial markets, it's actually a good sign that the market's holding steady. That said, why is that happening? I mean, there's a lot of volatility, and you'd think that it would be expressing itself in the real estate market. But in fact, when we peel back the curtain and we look at the data, what we notice is that inventory is at record lows. And this has been happening across the state and across the country. In many markets, inventory is really tight. In Sonoma County, there's only about 2.8 months supply of inventory across the entire market. So that means that it takes about 2.8 months for all of the existing inventory on a given day to be absorbed by current buyer demand, which isn't very much. In fact, that's considered a strong seller's market. And so why is inventory so tight? Well, it's a similar story that we've been hearing, which is that there are a lot of homeowners in homes that have mortgages that are 2.8%, 3%, 3.5%, and they're just not willing to change homes in this environment where their costs will more than double to trade, right? Even if they trade down, the cost goes up for that smaller house because mortgage rates are so much more expensive than when they purchased 5 or even 10 years ago. And so we have a whole lot of supply that's really being locked up by this higher interest rate climate. And it really isn't going to loosen until rates probably dip into the 5s, I imagine. And I think we're a ways from that, given what's happening in the world. And so I think we're going to be in a tight inventory environment for the foreseeable future. And that means that in some sectors of the market, it's going to be hard to negotiate a really low price. And it's clear when we look at the data that buyers are starting to understand that the market fundamentals are strong and that prices are probably not going to drop anytime soon. In March, pending sales were up 38%. That's a huge jump over March of last year, and it demonstrates buyer interest and the buyer confidence in this market, and maybe the lack of confidence they may have in the overall financial markets, and they're seeking real estate as another option. Even though pending sales are up by a large margin and inventory remains tight, buyers are still taking more time this year than they did last year to make decisions about real estate purchases. In fact, a property listed today takes about 73 days to go into contract, which is 20% more time than it took last year at this time. So buyers may not have as much to choose from, but they are being picky about properties that they're looking at. They're giving more consideration, maybe seeing properties multiple times before they're making decisions. So all the numbers I just provided were county-wide numbers, all residential properties, and so it's a big sample size. And it doesn't tell the whole story about what's happening in different sectors of the market. There's a lot more nuance. And so the next thing I'd like to do is talk about the luxury market, which in my view is $2 million and up. When we look at just homes listed above $2 million, the market looks very different. And that's because median price in this category has dropped almost 17% year over year. That's a huge decline, especially when you compare that to looking at the whole market, and the decline was so insignificant, under 2%. And so what's happening? Well, I think first of all, there are fewer buyers that can reach that high, right? I mean, with interest rates where they are, unless you have cash or make quite a bit of money and can qualify for one of these larger loans, it's harder to reach the upper end than it used to be. And so that end of the market has seen a lot more price erosion than we've seen in the lower end of the market, where there are a lot more buyers in the buyer pool and they're able to reach those lower numbers. And it's taking almost twice as long for properties in this price category to transact as it does when we look at the market as a whole. Days on market above $2 million are over 150 days on the market. And so it's taking a lot longer for a property to sell. And when it does, it's selling for under asking almost every time. But there's a bright spot for sellers in this market because pending sales in March was also up over 36%. And so we are seeing potentially some money being moved from the financial markets into real estate in Sonoma County because it's a safer bet than some of the financial markets are right now, I think, for a lot of investors or people who are looking to park cash. And because prices have come down so much over the last year, people are seeing it as a buying opportunity and they're getting in at lower prices before rates drop again and prices go back up. So let's take a look at different areas of the county and see if we can find some places where there might be some opportunity for you as a buyer going into the spring. First of all, I think it's really important to note where the tightest inventory is, because those are the areas where you're going to have the least amount of leverage, right? And the tightest inventory in Sonoma County in March was in a couple of places. One is Western Petaluma. Western Petaluma has very little inventory, 1.8 months of inventory, so it's certainly a seller's market there right now. Prices have not increased in March much over last year, but pending sales are up. I imagine that is about to shift direction. Median price in that area in March was $1.12 million. So a little cheaper than some other areas, but still very expensive for Sonoma County. So an area to watch, and just know it's a tighter market there. If you're looking to buy in Petaluma, there's fewer options right now and probably not as much wiggle room in terms of negotiation. Another really tight market is the area between Sebastopol and Santa Rosa. The real estate community calls this Santa Rosa. And inventory there is also 1.8 months. Not a lot on the market. Dollars per square foot has risen 25% in this area year over year, March compared to March of last year. And I think it's because Sebastopol has become more and more expensive, and people who want to live in Sebastopol but are having trouble reaching Sebastopol's prices are looking to this area between Sebastopol and Santa Rosa for close proximity and value. And so we're seeing a lot more demand there, and those prices and the increase in price per square foot is reflecting that demand. Santa Rosa as a whole is holding steady, about 3 months supply of inventory, so there's a little bit more breathing room in that part of the market. Western Santa Rosa, we just addressed, is high in demand. Also, Northern Santa Rosa is also in demand, which is a very beautiful area. Only about 2.3 months supply there. So we'll watch Santa Rosa, but prices are definitely a lot less expensive in Santa Rosa on the whole as they are in the other two areas we've looked at. So where are the opportunities? Healdsburg spells opportunity right now. And of course, Healdsburg is it skews very luxury, right? And so when we talked about the luxury end of the market really suffering, Healdsburg is really expressing that through its data. There are 5.1 months supply of inventory in Healdsburg right now. A lot more room for negotiation, a lot more opportunities for buyers to shop and compare homes up there in Healdsburg. Median price in Healdsburg is surprisingly low. It's $932,000. It's down over 44% from last year. I think that's because the lower end of the market is still selling through, but the higher end of the market in Healdsburg is really stalled quite a bit. And so it's really skewing that data. I think if you're looking to buy a luxury property anywhere in Sonoma County, you're gonna have a lot of leverage right now, and more so in a place like Healdsburg and at the higher end of the market than in a place like Sebastopol or Petaluma. See, there are a lot of luxury properties that are sitting on the market. Some of them are in areas of the county that still allow short-term rentals. And so if you found a beautiful property at the high end with a pool and some views and a nice house that could easily be rented on Airbnb for a nice profit and a beautiful tax deduction in 2026, there are certainly some opportunities in the market to do that right now. And I would also say, it's not in this data because I can't slice the data for fixers versus market-ready properties, but certainly cosmetic fixers are not moving as quickly. They're having a harder time, and they're selling for less per foot than a home that's really been well prepared for the market. And so if you see a cosmetic fixer in any of these markets, it's likely to be an opportunity for you. I think if you are intimidated by a fixer, then you want to surround yourself by people who have resources to help you make those cosmetic changes quickly and easily and end up with the house that you want without having to sort of really pay top dollar for it on the open market. I've said it in other videos, but sellers here in Sonoma County don't always prepare their homes for sale the same way you might see if you're coming from a San Francisco or a Los Angeles. They don't always have the money to put into the home, and they don't always necessarily have the same mindset that they would put a whole bunch of money into a home they're gonna sell to someone else. And so often those homes tend to sit a little bit. Buyers tend to kick tires, but they're not excited about homes, and it's definitely an opportunity for a buyer who has some savvy and some capacity to make those repairs or cosmetic changes themselves and get a home for a price that's reasonable. Overall, the fundamentals of the Sonoma County market are really strong. And in some areas, it's stronger than others, which is why it's really important to work with a professional on the ground who can help guide you through all of the nuance we just discussed and can help you make a really wise decision when it comes to your purchase. I'm Stephanie Johnson. I'd love to be your resource in Sonoma County. Please reach out to me, book a call. Let's talk about your goals and how I can help you be successful in Sonoma County. And remember to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you're notified every time we drop a video. We'll be dropping videos every week about life and real estate here in beautiful Sonoma County. I hope you'll follow along. Until the next one, bye for now.